some people wrote in as we were preparing for this program and they were bitter because they thought they had a spouse, let's say, that had died in a clinical trial. And that relates to a couple of things. One is transparency. Is the data from a trial and any dangers that show up, is that reported and analyzed in public, Jim? And also, what are the risks being in a trial, and what is the monitoring to try to have trials be as safe as possible? So, Jim, maybe you could talk about that from the patient perspective. I want to make sure I know what I'm getting, I know what the risks are, and if any have come up along the way, I want it to be reported. And I want to know that there's the team looking out for me.
And you have every right to expect that, Andrew. If you're in a trial, you have the right to get that knowledge if there's new things that come up that we learn about. And part of every trial, as it's being written, there has to be a data safety monitoring board. These are the experts who will do what you've asked be done. They will monitor the trial as it goes along. They will look for any safety issues. If there are patients that are developing liver toxicities, they will find this. They will point this out and perhaps see if the trial needs to continue or if something needs to be revised. The presence of institutional review boards review whether trials should go forward or not. Patients who are in trials actually get very, very good medical care and medical coverage. In fact, I would maintain, Andrew, that they get better care than just standard care. They have experts that are watching them even more carefully than would be in a general routine care setting, because they're looking for these concerns and problems. The person who mentioned the bad outcome, we can't ever say that every trial is going to be perfect. There are going to be concerns. That's why trials are done. But they're relatively rare, and we do have boards and review organizations during the trial, not afterwards, but during the trial, to be looking out for your benefit, Andrew, so that you're not hurt by the trial.
All right, but let's say this, and Mike, for you. So first of all, admittedly, a lot of these trials people are sick people, and they're feeling maybe the trial is their last hope. We had a friend, Lisa Minkove, who died in the CAR-T trial for CLL not long ago. She had been very sick with CLL. So we'd hope it would have worked. It didn't work for her, whether CLL won. And we know other people where, as the learning is going on about often powerful new medicines, they didn't benefit, or in one case, there was a drug, venetoclax, we know about. There were some deaths earlier on when the drug was far more powerful than was originally understood. So what do we do? I mean, that's the real world, I guess, of scientific study, but that's a concern, Mike, of people saying, oh my God, I'm worried about being a guinea pig, or the unknowns, I'm subject to dangers.
Yeah, so there are a couple things. So whenever people say, it doesn't come up as much recently, but about being a guinea pig, I say, well, guinea pigs don't have choices. So, and so like Jim has said, you can drop off the trial if you want to drop off it. But so I think for adverse events and things that can happen, one reason to randomize people is you do understand then if you treat someone with one thing and then another, and the death rate is the same in both, the drug's not causing it, that's just the disease. And there a couple years ago, there was a presentation from the group at Dana-Farber on their precision medicine program, and the issue was they were taking so long to get people evaluated that their performance status or how well they felt was good, and by the time they got through evaluation, many of them had died because the disease, when you're getting to fifth, sixth, seventh line therapy, can often progress very rapidly. And so I think that's one of the issues that people can feel the drug did it, and it's hard to know. And doctors get these things called adverse event reporting forms, and we have to try to come up with, is it probably related, possibly related? And we also get these forms that say, you have a patient on the study's open in 3 countries, thousands of people are on it, one person died of a heart attack. And you have no idea as the physician, well, is that the same rate as, they're 70 years old? Is that the same rate as this other 70-year-old? Or so you need the numerator and the denominator. And that's what the DSMB or Data Safety Monitoring Board is supposed to do, which is look at the data and say, is this beyond what we would expect? And they can stop the trial. They can do expanded cohorts. They can do things to try to figure that out. Now, we know from even car companies lying about their exhaust systems that if the Data Safety Monitoring Board gets false data, well, it can't fix that. But that's pretty nefarious. That, I think, is not something that's commonly happening and would be, a very serious thing to happen. Now, one thing for transparency is that almost all studies I'm aware of get registered on clinicaltrials.gov or maybe some other sites, but usually that site. And they're supposed to report out the outcomes. It's not also a perfect process, but you should be able to see how long the study's been open, are there any publications related to it, and those type of things. So this whole process is not perfect, but I would say in general, the people at the companies are trying to develop something they think is going to work. They're trying to do it safely, both to help develop their drug well, as well as to avoid a bunch of regulatory issues. And the people that are on the data safety monitoring boards are trying to do their best to answer these questions. But the smaller the number of patients, which increasingly are the type of trials we are doing and almost are aiming for, it's harder to be definitive about when these things happen, what caused it.